whether or not you, I am so I want to talk about the Giants. I really do, and we will give them all the platitudes and all the accolades that they deserve. Joe Judge would be the first to tell you they don't deserve anything yet because they haven't accomplished anything yet, and that's the mindset that the Giants should have. Patrick Graham, what a great defensive performance from your players. You frustrated Russell Wilson all day long. The Jets need a guy like Leonard Williams, don't they? A guy that hustles and gets after the opposing quarterback.
Well, this is the best season of his life, man.
Right.
I'm telling you, unbelievable.
And you want to know something? He's playing for it. He's playing for himself, a new contract and all that other stuff. But this is what, Dave Gettleman saw in him and why Dave Gettleman made the trade for him, and which was panned by a lot of Giant fans, is starting to show itself in their defensive line, in how good their defensive line has been. They have to manufacture some pressure here or there, but for the most part, this is kind of the recipe the Giants use to go to these Super Bowls. That defensive line was going to be really stout against the run, was going to be able to get after the quarterback, and the secondary and the linebackers yesterday really frustrated Russell Wilson. And Patrick Graham drew up a great defensive plan, and his players executed it flawlessly to frustrate one of the NFL's best players.
Made me think that Patrick Graham isn't going to be around very long because he's going to get some head coaching interviews, and he might get one of those.
And maybe he deserves it, and I'm not, we're not there yet, okay? But yesterday was such a good win that it should be celebrated, should be talked about, it should be broken down, and it should be appreciated for what it was, because the way that they ended the game yesterday was the way that the dopey New York Jets should have ended the game yesterday. You don't all-out blitz an all-pro quarterback. Derek Carr at one time was an MVP candidate a few years back before he blew his knee out under Jack Del Rio. You don't do that when you have great wide receivers, young wide receivers, top-end wide receivers going against rookie free agent cornerbacks. You don't all-out blitz unless you're telling the opposing team, here you go, here's the game, you can have it. We need to lose because of the bigger picture, or the greater good for the New York Jets fans.
Let me ask you.
But Patrick Graham deserves all the credit in the world for coming up and devising that plan. And his players deserve a lot of credit for executing that plan. And they have now given us a December that we can look forward to, where games are meaningful, where they, and they did this with a quarterback who, by the way, is a 10-year veteran. This is why you have a quarterback like this on your roster. He didn't give you an A-plus game. He gave you like a C-plus game.
But he did everything he needed to do to make sure that the Giants were going to stay in the game to the end.
Exactly.
And that's all you needed.
And
I thought he was going to lose him the game. I did.
Right.
And I was wrong, and he was for what he needed to be, it was perfect.
And this is why you have an insurance policy, and you hope that you don't have to use that insurance policy but once, twice, maybe 3 times a year. And you don't want to have it for 5 weeks running.
Daniel Jones has got to come back next week.
Well,
he has to.
Well, we'll see. Could they get through another game without him? I think they could. I would much rather have Daniel Jones be 100% healthy before I brought him back. And this is not a debate as to who's the better quarterback. The better quarterback is Daniel Jones. He's the guy that needs to play. He's the guy that needs to lead the team. But Colt McCoy just paid you dividends. He just paid off the insurance policy that you bought at the beginning of the year when you brought him in here. And who paid it off for him? The rest of his teammates. There was the one unfortunate throw to Evan Ingram that ended up in an interception. Everybody said, well, Evan Ingram's got to make that play. Colt McCoy's got to be accurate. Accuracy is not just down the field and overthrows and things of that nature. In tight windows, you have to be accurate. And when you watch Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes play at a whole different level, you see that accuracy night in and night out and consistency when they play. But I just will say that Patrick Graham's defense was awesome yesterday, just absolutely awesome, and it was just it was not a fun game to watch, but it was from a Giant fan perspective. I sat there with a bunch of Giants.
For them,
it was, but it was also maddening. There were moments in that game where you're like, oh, what are we doing? What are we doing? Oh, that's a play. I mean, it was crazy. The fourth quarter was crazy.
As you're watching this game, when Russell Wilson gets that opportunity at the end of the game after the Giants punt, what did you think was going to happen?
Well, obviously you think negatively.
Right. All the respect to the Giants, but I thought he was going to go down the field and score a touchdown. It's just what I thought was going to happen.
Right. Here's a Hall of Fame quarterback. And by the way, what I do love, honestly, even though it didn't play itself out the way that the Giants would have hoped, I love their 4-minute offense at the end of the game, throwing the ball. At that moment, you're up by 5, and you have, 5.5 minutes to go in the game, and you get the ball back, your offense, you have to play like it's the first quarter. You can't just sit on the ball and run it and run it and run it. You can't do that. And coaches more and more now, over the last 5 or 6 years, are realizing that no matter who the quarterback is, this is the way you got it. You got to try to win the game on offense when you have the ball, and you're in your 4-minute offense. And your 4-minute offense is take the down clock under 5 before you snap it, but you're playing with your whole offensive playbook. It's not just run, they call timeout, run again, they call timeout, run again, they call timeout, and then you punt the ball back with 4 minutes and 30 seconds to go in the game, and then your defense has got to be out there for that long.
Right. Well, I mean, they ultimately had to punt, but there was a first down that was gained prior to that. And by the way, on that third down, as Evan Ingram's running wide open and Colt McCoy hits him, and who's the man chasing after him who couldn't get to Evan Ingram in time? Jamal Adams, which made me laugh. I just thought that was tremendous. I wanted that to be the
Jamal
reason why.
Game, he had a good game.
Whatever. A guy runs his mouth like freaking crazy. I wanted that third down to be the way that the Giants salted the game away, just so that had to stick in his craw for an entire week. It was not, but they still ended up losing.
But you know the point I'm making, though.
Sure.
That's the way you try to win a game on offense. Well, that's how you try to win the game on offense. And sometimes it doesn't work. And then sometimes your defense has to come back on the field, and then your defense has to make plays.
Right.
And again, and this is where I go back to whatever Patrick Graham decided. Now, you could sit here and we could all say it's prevent defense. It's a defense where they knew that Seattle had to score a touchdown to win the game. It was not a field goal defense.
Right.
It was now you're defending the entire
field. They needed 2
field.
touchdowns at one point.
Right.
And then they got the first one to Chris Carson. They needed a whole nother one to be able to win.
And I'm sure he brought them over to the sideline and was talking to them and talking about, exactly what's going on. All right, we just gave up the touchdown. We're going to go out there and we're going to have to do this again, guys. And we're going to have to tighten up. And you know what? They tightened up. They made some great plays. The Leonard Williams had great effort, and the entire defensive line had great effort all day long.
And by the way, another thing I thought was going to kill him was Blake Martinez going out in the fourth quarter, because he is such a big part of that defense, such a leader. And I said, man, that is going to hurt them because he's a tackling machine. Like someone's going to slip past whoever comes in for Blake Martinez. There's going to be a missed tackle. It's going to be a disaster. But no, I mean, it's your classic next man up situation that the Giants have. So, I mean, what Joe Judge has built in a small amount of time here really is remarkable. And all that stuff that we were saying in the beginning of the year where we would couch it with, I know they're losing. But you can see that
they're getting better.
See it. It's all coming together now in the form of wins. And they still have a ways to go, and you still have 2 NFC East teams that are left to play, albeit in games they are not favored in. They're major underdogs with Washington and Dallas. But, I mean, the Giants could have a major
They've beaten
foothold.
Washington twice.
They have, so they have the tiebreaker there, right? But
still, who's major underdogs?
Washington to the Steelers and Dallas to the Ravens. I'm saying there's 2 more teams left to play this week.
In this division,
technically.
Yes,
but I expect them to lose, meaning that the Giants are going to have a stranglehold on this division at the end of the week if those 2 other things happen, which is incredible to think about. But I just assumed every one of the teams in the NFC East was going to lose, and then the Giants would still have the lead that they had last week. I mean, now look at this massive step forward that potentially could happen if these other 2 pieces fall into place.
Yeah, well, they got it right with their coach. There's no question about that. You can see that. And, we should probably thank Golden Tate's wife, because I think that had a lot to do with a lot of this stuff. I mean, little things that happened during the season, and you wonder, and we always talk about, is this a get-right game? Is this a measuring stick game? What is this game? This game, you would probably say this is the best game thus far of the Joe Judge era when you think about how much of an underdog they were, the fact that they were going in with a backup quarterback, and the fact that nobody gave them a chance.
No.
And they went out there and they won, which is why they play the game and why they get paid as well as the Seattle Seahawks get paid. So I just thought, it's a signature win, if you want to call it that, for Joe Judge early on in his career. And maybe we'll look back at this impetus as to why they got into the playoffs this year. There's still a lot of football left to be played. They still have a very difficult schedule. They play teams within their division, which is always going to be difficult. I don't care what the records are. Throw them out the window. You know that? How many times do we say it? Belport, East Islip play, throw the records out the window. So, that's it. Hey, they accomplished something, but I'm sure that Joe Judge, if I read him the right way, and he came from Belichick, it's like, guys, we haven't accomplished anything.
Oh, sure.
We got to win.
Course.
We're going to celebrate it, and now we're on to the next team. Now we have to focus on the next game. We have to focus on getting healthy. We have to focus staying within the COVID-19 protocols. We don't want to bust any of those things. We don't want to have our season be derailed, like maybe the Ravens season has been derailed because somebody made a colossal error within our building. So all of these things are playing into what Joe Judge is doing. Now, I'm going to tell you, as far as the Jets are concerned, Gregg Williams should be fired this morning. I would have fired him last night. I would have fired him last night. I want him fired this morning. I want him out of there. And I'm coming at you as an ex-player who would have been in that locker room because the players want to win. The players are out there busting their ass for that coaching staff. They're going to work every single day, and it sucks. I've been on losing teams, maybe not this bad, but close. And it sucks going to work every freaking day and listen to your coach pontificate about how you're getting better and how we can win games and how we can do this. And I think once you hear Marcus May say what Marcus May said.
And what it was over and over again, he kept saying, we needed to have a better call. We needed to have a better call.
He is now calling out his defensive coordinator. And you know what? I don't give Gregg Williams any slack here. Now, it may be for the greater good. They may end up with Trevor Lawrence, and that may be the case. And there may be people out there that are happy about that. And I'll tell you what.
There's only one way to look at it.
I know.
Sorry.
At the end of the day, if they do end up getting Trevor Lawrence, we'll look back at this moment. We'll say this could have been the turning point moment for the team to get
and the franchise and the franchise history in a decade or more of football.
Right.
Yes.
But I'm coming at you as a former player that goes into that locker room that is trying to bust his ass for those guys that are trying to get us ready for the next game. You know, for the Sam Darnolds of the world, for the Quinnen Williams of the world, for the Marcus Mays of the world, you know, for the Denzel Mims of the world, they wake up this morning and they're like, what the F just happened last night?
And I feel for those guys, but I cannot picture a reason why Gregg Williams, who there's no way he is going to be here next year, is going to throw the game for the organization. Unless you're telling me that Joe Douglas is going to be so happy that Gregg Williams called this awful defense to allow the Raiders to win the game and Derek Carr to throw to Henry Ruggs. He's going to keep him around to give him a prize. I mean, so to me, it's incompetence more than it's anything else.
I wouldn't be surprised if Gregg Williams is working for the Raiders next year, honestly. You know, because he basically handed the blueprint of what they were doing at the end of the game to John Gruden. Hey, this is what I'm doing. If you can make the play, make the play. But this is what I'm doing. And I'm telling you, I am telling you, they missed Nelson Aguilar almost on the same type of play. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that was just a bad play by Derek Carr.
You think he purposely called those defenses?
I'm not giving him any slack whatsoever.
But no, I'm asking you directly. I want to know, do you think that he called those defenses on purpose to make the Jets lose?
If you're asking my opinion as to whether or not he blew that game on purpose, I'm going to sit here and tell you yes.
So for what reason, though?
I don't know. I hope that there's no internal understanding as to the way this has to go down.
There's no way.
Or there's such a disdain for the head coach that he wants them to be winless, so that goes on Adam Gase's record. That could be the case. I wouldn't be surprised if after the game he sent a text to Joe Douglas, there's your Christmas present, Merry Christmas. I'm just telling you that from a player's perspective, the players now are going to be inundated on social media, through this radio station, through the print media, the people that cover the NFL, all across the landscape of the NFL that are going to be saying, your coach threw that game and gave it to the Raiders.
But now, if you would have told me that this coaching staff was going to stick through next year.
This coaching staff is gone.
No, of course, I know that, but obviously, but I'm trying to make a point. My point is that if you would have told me that this coaching staff was going to stick through next year and Trevor Lawrence was going to benefit them, then I could maybe understand why he would throw the game. But doesn't his reputation have something to do with this as well?
His reputation sucks, actually.
No, hold on. But what I'm saying is exactly, once again, playing into my argument. His reputation is he's overly aggressive and stupid his entire career. That's what he's been. So what happens if he would have sacked Derek Carr at that point? He would have been pissed? Because that's what he does. I mean, I know it's idiotic, but he's idiotic.
You know, if you got Jalen Ramsey out there, you got Stephon Gilmore out there, you got Darius Slay out there, you get any one of those guys out there. I could have Aaron Glenn out there when he was at the top of his game. I can understand it. Ty Law out there, have some experience. You're playing
I know it's idiotic. You don't have to convince me of it being idiotic.
With a rookie, undrafted free agent.
You don't need to convince me how stupid it is.
And like Derek Carr said, when I got to the line, I couldn't believe what I was saying. Neither could I, and neither could anybody that I work with. And I'm telling you right now.
Why would he throw it, though?
Like I told you, there's a myriad of reasons. All I can tell you is that But
he's not going to be working for the Jets, so that reason's out.
Hey, Greg, it's the 411 of how not to do it.
Okay.
And there's really no explanation other than the one that I'm giving you. And I'm
telling you.
But
you're not giving me an explanation.
His ass is out on the street this morning because he just basically threw my entire team under the bus.
So why would he want that?
And it's bad enough as it is, and I'm not even talking about it from a Jet fan perspective.
Yeah,
I'm a realist. I understand. Trevor Lawrence and a new coach is something to sell, is something to get the fans excited about. That's exactly what needs to happen. Joe Judge is exciting the fans right now.
Right.
When the Giants go to sell season tickets, if they continue on this path and they continue to look as good as they've looked, and as much as we've said about how this team looks like it's turned a corner, at least from the performance standpoint and from the toughness standpoint and from who they are, you could sell tickets and sponsorships to that. Our station can sell tickets and sponsorships around the Giants. It works out that way. That's the business side of what's going on here in the NFL.
Yeah.
And Joe Judge is basically hitting the freaking ball out of the park.
All right, well, let's
on the other
focus
side, now, if you are the Jets,
right,
and you are Christopher Johnson, and you watched that unfold yesterday, and now you're listening to all of us react to this. And I reacted to this yesterday, by the way, on the air, right as it was happening. And I said what I said then, and I believe it. And I'm saying it again this morning.
But he threw the game for what reason?
Either to make Adam Gase look bad. And by the way, this also falls on the desk of Adam Gase.
Does anybody need to make Adam Gase look worse than Adam Gase makes himself look?
See, Adam Gase could have said, Greg, you're doing what? You're doing what? He could have called timeout. He could have said, hey, we're not running that damn defense. And it just goes to show you that Adam Gase is not controlling this team.
We knew that he never had his hands on the defense.
Which is the difference between him and Joe Judge. Joe Judge is going over and coaching the offensive line. The offensive line coach at the time, Mark Colombo, basically goes after Joe Judge on the field and says, we don't teach it that way, or whatever that argument was. What does Joe Judge do? Your ass is out of here. I am the freaking leader. I am telling you this is the way we're doing it, and that's the way you handle it.
Obviously.
This is obviously not the case with the Jets, and I hate even thinking about this, but I know as a player in that locker room after that game, I've thrown interceptions that have lost games, and I stand up before the media, and I say, you know what? That's on me. I made a terrible throw. I made a terrible read. It was bad. I lost us the game. And there have been many times where I've had to do that. And I know other quarterbacks that have had to do that as well. Mm-hmm. Adam Gase looked lost after the game yesterday, trying to explain.
He's looked lost every day of his life for the past 8 months.
I'm just telling you, after the game yesterday, he looks freaking lost.
Well,
and he can't even answer a question as to what the hell they were doing on defense. You know why? Because he has no freaking idea.
Sure.
And that's why he can't be a head coach.
Well, we knew that already. I just want to, I need to have more evidence as to what benefit Gregg Williams gets from throwing the game. I know how stupid it was. It was ridiculously stupid. He's got a history of blitzing way more than anybody else. He's probably thinking, who cares? Let's try to get a sack. Doesn't matter. We're 0-11. That is something that I've never seen in my life.
So let's pay guys to go hurt guys on the field.
Right. But
Okay,
that was to try to win.
Bob, just tell you, that's his pass.
This is trying to lose.
That's his pass.
But that pass has nothing to do with this.
I would not. He doesn't deserve any credit whatsoever.
I'm not giving him any credit, but you have to give me a reason why he would throw a game.
I just gave you three reasons.
But none of them make any sense.
What, sending a Merry Christmas text to Joe Douglas
He's
doesn't make any sense?
He's not going to be here next. Merry Christmas. He's not going to be here next year.
Maybe he wants to go work with John Gruden and the Raiders.
Why in the hell would they hire him if that's the type of stuff?
Game.
There's no way he's going to. So he's now throwing games, so the Raiders are going to hire him. This is crazy. This is like Alex Jones of the NFL type stuff.
Right? You know what it is? It's just like it makes.
He's just a moron. You ever just think of that? He's just a moron who can't do his job well. You really think it's that deep that he wants to get hired by the Raiders? What if the Jets got to Derek Carr and they sacked him? Then what?
I could give you a million reasons.
Well, you've given me three, and none of them make sense to me.
Well, he hates Adam Gase and wants Adam Gase to go 0-16.
Like, does he really need his help? Like, honestly,
Well,
Adam
yesterday
Gase,
he did. Yesterday he did.
I mean, for crying out loud.
Hey, listen, it was one play in one game, and it was the one play that was the most important play to win the game. And for those players in that locker room, that's an effing disgrace.
If he hates,
it's an effing disgrace.
Yeah, I mean,
Do you understand what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying.
If you've ever been in that locker room, and I hate throwing this out there, yeah, I've been in that locker room, and I'm telling you,
I'm not arguing with that. I'm not arguing with how the players feel. I'm not arguing with that.
It's a disgrace.
I'm just saying that
I would walk in there today and say, screw this up. I ain't practicing for you idiots.
Well, that would be pretty bad, too.
Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit the red bell so you're notified when we have new content.